Imagine standing perfectly still, directly on an invisible state border.
Hmm.
If you pitch a tent or, sleep in your car on one side of that line, you might wake up to a social worker.
Yeah, offering a hot meal or maybe a pathway to a housing voucher.
Right, exactly. But if you take one single step across that exact same line,
Completely different story.
yeah, those identical actions could get you a criminal citation. Or they tow your vehicle and you spend a night in the county jail.
It's a profound geographic lottery, really.
It is. The experience of surviving without a home doesn't just, vary by region. It completely shapeshifts depending on the legal and political framework of wherever you happen to be standing.
We often talk about homelessness as this
Mm.
this monolith, right? Like
Yeah.
like a massive national crisis.
Yeah.
But the actual mechanics of survival are fiercely local.
Highly local.
I mean, the local ordinances, the zoning laws, the municipal budgets, those are the things that literally dictate whether someone makes it through the night.
So, welcome to our deep dive. Our mission today is to cut through all that broad national rhetoric and build a real-time scorecard for the state of Arizona.
We're going to evaluate the lived reality of homelessness in this state, specifically looking at 6 aspects of survival.
And the catch for you listening is that the score is going to evolve dynamically throughout our exploration today.
Yeah, we won't reveal the final perfectly homeless state score until the very end.
Right, because we are building it together piece by piece. We really want to uncover what it actually takes to survive a Tuesday in Arizona.
Well, to set a baseline for this scorecard, we have to look at the sheer scale of the issue first.
Set the scene for us. What are the numbers looking like?
So early 2026 point-in-time count data, which is essentially just a one-night snapshot they take every January.
Right.
It shows that after years of these really severe spikes, the overall numbers in Arizona are finally stabilizing.
Okay, that sounds like a good thing.
It is, but the geographic disparities are massive. So in Maricopa County, which is the sprawling Phoenix metro area,
Yeah, huge area.
right, they counted 9,726 individuals experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
And about 53% of those people were in some form of shelter, which leaves 47% completely unsheltered.
Got it. But if you look down south at Pima County, which includes Tucson, the landscape shifts dramatically.
Oh, complete.
They counted 2,130 individuals, but a staggering 70% of those people were completely unsheltered.
Wow. Yeah.
And we should clarify who we're actually talking about here.
Yeah, because public perception often defaults to, a single adult male holding a cardboard sign.
Right, exactly. But the data shows we are looking at families who have just been priced out. We're looking at unaccompanied youth,
Mm-hmm.
older adults hitting retirement with zero savings, alongside, of course, highly vulnerable populations dealing with untreated mental illness or substance use disorders.
The diversity of that population really crashes into this heavily centralized support system.
How so?
Well, in the Phoenix area, services are tightly concentrated in the downtown core.
Oh, right.
From a city planning perspective, municipalities do this to, consolidate resources and avoid messy neighborhood zoning fights.
Sure, out of sight, out of mind for the suburbs.
Exactly. But it creates these intense logistical bottlenecks. Meanwhile, the outlying and suburban areas are left with fractured or sometimes just entirely non-existent support networks.
So we want to move beyond the spreadsheets here. We want to understand the mechanics of this system from the ground up for you.
And ultimately, you can't understand homelessness without looking at the availability of an actual home.
Right. So let's look at the foundational math of housing affordability in Arizona. This is our first category.
Yeah, pretty much everything we are going to explore today is a downstream effect of a severe deficit in affordable housing.
Okay.
This is specifically acute for what the state defines as extremely low income, or ELI, households.
And those are households earning at or below the federal poverty guideline, right?
Exactly, or 30% of their area median income. Currently, a full 20% of all renters in Arizona fall into this highly vulnerable category.
That is a huge chunk of the population. So give me the actual math on this.
Okay.
For every 100 extremely low-income households trying to rent an apartment in Arizona, how many affordable and available units actually exist?
According to state data, there are only 26 affordable and available units for every 100 ELI households.
Wait, Just 26.
Just 26.
And imagine a massive game of musical chairs where 100 people are walking around a circle, but there are only 26 chairs.
It's a brutal game.
Yeah. When the music stops, it's not a matter of who fails to get a seat. It is a mathematical certainty that 74 people will be left standing.
Right.
There's no amount of, personal responsibility or budgeting that can suddenly manifest a 27th chair out of thin air.
No, exactly. And those 74 households are forced into apartments that eat up 50, 60, sometimes 70% of their income.
Which puts them one minor emergency away from eviction.
Yeah, a broken alternator, a sick child, a missed shift, and they're out. The macroeconomic reality sets residents up for failure from the absolute start.
Because population growth in Arizona outpaced housing development over the last decade, right?
Massively. And the new units that were built skewed overwhelmingly toward luxury and market rate developments.
Because those offer the highest return on investment for developers.
Exactly. So applying our first metric to the scorecard, this lowers the overall picture significantly.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
You simply cannot stabilize a population when the fundamental infrastructure of affordable housing is mathematically missing.
So if the math guarantees that 74 out of 100 people will lose their housing, where do they go?
Well, the immediate safety net is supposed to be the shelter system.
Right. Our second category, shelter access. So how is Arizona's safety net holding up under that kind of pressure?
It is deeply uneven, honestly, and it highly depends on which city you're standing in.
Okay, let's start with Phoenix.
So Phoenix has actually made massive municipal investments in traditional indoor shelter beds. They added over 1,200 beds between 2022 and 2026.
Okay, that's substantial.
It is. It resulted in a 15% increase in sheltered individuals year over year. By early 2026, over half of Phoenix's unhoused population was sheltered.
But there's a catch.
Yeah. The structural flaw is that hypercentralization we mentioned earlier.
Right.
A staggering 82% of all shelter beds in the entire region are located within the city of Phoenix, heavily clustered around the downtown Human Services campus.
I really have to challenge the logic of that approach.
I know, right?
Is building one massive mega shelter campus actually an efficient use of resources, or does it just manufacture a localized crisis?
It definitely creates a bottleneck.
Yeah, because when a city puts all of its survival resources in a 3-block radius, it forces thousands of vulnerable people to migrate to that exact spot. You end up with hundreds of people stuck waiting on sidewalks in 115-degree heat just to get a bottle of water.
And the human cost of that bottleneck is severe. A local reporter recently interviewed Devontae Chandler.
Oh yeah, the unhoused man navigating that campus.
Yeah. He pointed out the reality of that centralization. He said every single service requires getting on a list.
Just constant waiting.
Exactly. You wait for a bed.
Yeah.
You wait for an appointment. You wait for heat relief.
Yeah.
As he told the reporter, no one's getting any help waiting.
You're essentially just warehoused in a queue.
Right. And if we look south to Tucson, the situation is actually moving backward.
Really?
Yeah. In 2026, Tucson saw an 8.6% decrease in the number of sheltered individuals compared to the previous year.
So their capacity is shrinking.
Shrinking, leaving over 70% of their unhoused population out on the streets.
So how does this dynamic affect the evolving score?
Well, weighing Phoenix's massive bed expansion against those severe regional bottlenecks and contrasting that with Tucson's shrinking access, this shifts the score slightly upward for effort and capital investment.
Okay.
But it reveals a heavily flawed distribution model that basically just traps people in administrative limbo.
Okay, so we've looked at the structural foundations, housing affordability, and the shelter system. I want to pause the narrative right here for our midpoint score moment.
We are pulling up the preliminary score overlay for you right now on the screen.
But please keep in mind this is strictly a draft score.
Right, it's just a draft based entirely on the availability of bricks, mortar, and beds.
Exactly, because as we move out of the shelter system and onto the streets for these remaining categories, the reality of surviving homelessness in public is going to make this score fluctuate wildly.
Because when the shelter lines in Phoenix are too long, or, the beds in Tucson simply don't exist.
People have no choice but to sleep in public spaces.
Exactly. And that brings them face to face with local law enforcement, which takes us into Category 3, criminalization and enforcement.
Surviving in public is an incredibly regulated activity.
Oh, heavily regulated.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. When a city doesn't have enough shelter beds, how do they handle the people living on the sidewalks?
Let's look at Tucson's Safe City Initiative. They launched it in late 2025.
Okay. What was the goal there?
Well, Ostensibly, it was designed to coordinate a response to public drug use and encampments,
Yeah.
largely driven by pressure from local businesses and downtown revitalization efforts.
Right.
But in practice, the mechanism was just incredibly enforcement heavy.
Give me some numbers.
In the first quarter of 2026, Tucson police reported a 67% increase in drug-related arrests.
Wow.
And if we look at one specific metric from March 2026, police cleared 15 different encampments. Those clearances resulted in 328 arrests.
Okay.
But only 29 people were placed directly into shelters.
Let me stop you there, because that ratio is staggering. Over 300 arrests and only 29 people get a roof over their head.
Yeah.
That is the literal definition of a revolving door.
And it really is.
If you arrest someone for pitching a tent in a park, they spend a night or two in the county jail. And while they're incarcerated, their tent, their medication, their vital documents...
Birth certificates, IDs.
Yeah, all of it. It's often thrown away by sanitation crews.
Exactly.
When they're released 48 hours later, they are deposited right back onto the same street. But now they are far more vulnerable and further away from housing than they were before the arrest.
It actively degrades their ability to escape homelessness.
And Phoenix does this differently, right?
Yeah, Phoenix utilizes a different enforcement mechanism around that centralized human services campus.
Yeah.
Devontae Chandler described the daily routine.
The 5.0 a.m. sweeps.
Right. Every single morning, around 5:00 a.m., police and municipal cleanup crews move through the surrounding blocks.
Just clearing everyone out.
People are required to pack up all of their belongings and move out of the area just to avoid getting cited or arrested for public camping.
Only to slowly filter back to the exact same spot later in the afternoon once the sweep is over.
Yep.
The logic of a 5.0 a.m. sweep is baffling to me. I mean, clearing a sidewalk doesn't make the human beings disappear.
Right.
It just forces sleep-deprived people to walk a few blocks away.
And Chandler noted exactly that. He observed that the policy of clearing out the encampments just makes people stretch back out farther and farther into other neighborhoods and parks.
Which just spreads the issue around.
It disperses the visibility of the issue without resolving the root cause.
So where does the score go from here?
When evaluating the state's approach, based on this, the current draft score is adjusted downward.
Makes sense.
The heavy reliance on punitive enforcement over humanitarian placement, especially those arrest ratios in Tucson, it just penalizes people for a mathematical failure of the housing market.
Right. So if you get swept from a sidewalk by a 5.0 a.m. police patrol and you can't get into a shelter, the next logical step, if you have the means, is to retreat to a vehicle.
Sure.
Which brings us to category 4, vehicle dwelling friendliness. But attempting to live in your car in Arizona places you in this bizarre legal gray area.
Very bizarre. Arizona essentially operates with two distinct parallel legal frameworks when it comes to vehicle habitation.
Explain that.
So on one hand, the state is highly permissive and incredibly friendly toward traditional RV living.
Right, the snowbirds.
Exactly. If you're a recreational traveler with a large, expensive RV, you can boondock for free on vast stretches of BLM and U.S. Forest Service lands for up to 14 days at a time.
Wow.
It is marketed and celebrated as this idyllic, adventurous lifestyle.
It's like having two entirely different rule books.
Yeah.
One rule book celebrates the recreational snowbird taking in the desert sunset in a $100,000 rig. But the moment vehicular residency takes the form of a mother of two trying to sleep in a Honda Civic in a grocery store parking lot because she couldn't afford rent, a completely different punitive rulebook slams shut on her.
And the mechanisms that enforce that second rulebook are local zoning laws and municipal ordinances.
Like overnight parking bans.
Strict overnight parking bans, aggressive towing policies, anti-camping ordinances, they make it incredibly difficult to park a passenger vehicle legally for the night.
Did we see this play out politically somewhere?
Yeah, we saw it play out in Sedona. Voters there explicitly rejected a safe parking plan.
Oh, wow. Oh, hey.
Well, the plan was designed specifically to provide a secure overnight lot for local service workers who were already living in their cars. But the community pushback was rooted in the visual stigma and fear of, institutionalizing encampments.
It sounds completely hopeless for anyone trying to survive in a sedan. I mean, tell me there is some municipality trying to engineer a solution rather than just handing out parking tickets to people who already have no money?
There are crucial pockets of innovation, thankfully.
Okay, good.
In Phoenix, a coalition of faith-based groups launched a pilot program called Safe Lots.
How does that work?
They utilize private church parking lots to provide a legal, secure overnight space specifically vetted for women and children living in their cars.
Okay, that's smart.
And the brilliance of the model is its scale. It's kept intentionally small, about 12 to 15 cars per lot.
So it's manageable.
Very. This provides physical security, access to hot showers inside the church, and most importantly, dedicated housing case managers who meet with the families directly on site.
That's fantastic. Anything similar happening down in Tucson?
Yes, down in Tucson, the city drafted a formalized safe parking and encampment policy.
Okay.
This basically creates a permitting process, so nonprofits can host these lots without facing devastating zoning fines.
So we have severe municipal crackdowns and public rejection via the ballot box on one side, balanced against some highly targeted, effective pilot programs on the other.
Right.
How does this tension impact our scorecard?
We have to balance the systemic hostility of the parking ordinances against the active municipal attempts at innovation.
Right.
So the presence of programs like Safe Lots updates the evolving score positively. It recognizes that localized solutions are successfully bypassing the punitive frameworks to keep people safe.
Awesome. But for the thousands of people who do not own a vehicle to sleep in and who cannot navigate the wait lists of the centralized mega shelters, survival comes down to what happens in the dirt margins of the city.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Category 5, outreach and social services. What kind of outreach is operating out there?
Well, Arizona municipalities are actually piloting some fascinating alternative models.
Okay.
They are shifting away from traditional sheltering and moving toward harm reduction and safe space environments.
Give me an example.
In Phoenix, the city established what they call a safe outdoor space, or SOS.
Okay.
This is a highly structured, city-operated campground located near the central campus. It provides 200 designated campsites situated within a secure, fenced perimeter.
Wow, 200. And what amenities are there?
They provide 247 security, daily meals, shade structures to prevent heat stroke, mobile showers, and intensive on-site case management.
I know Tucson is experimenting with a similar concept, right?
Yes. Tucson launched Star Village. It's a low-barrier outdoor shelter designed specifically for up to 25 unaccompanied women and non-binary individuals.
Low barrier is the key phrase there.
The critical mechanism, yeah. Because traditional indoor shelters often require residents to pass sobriety tests, surrender their pets, separate from their partners, or present valid government ID.
Which a lot of people just can't do.
Exactly. A harm reduction model removes those exact bureaucratic hurdles. It accepts people exactly as they are.
Which is huge.
It really is, because it allows highly vulnerable individuals to come inside a secure perimeter instead of hiding in an alley.
So I have to ask the cynical question here.
Go for it.
Are these sanctioned dirt lots a genuine innovation in social services, or are they just a symptom of a society giving up on building actual indoor shelters?
That's a fair question.
I mean, you can put up fences and mobile showers all you want, but it's still a tent in the desert.
Yeah. Joel Kaplan provided a really grounded perspective on this to a local reporter.
The art gallery owner, right?
Yeah. Right. The guy who's lived and worked directly in the middle of the Phoenix shelter zone for years.
What did he say?
He noted that the city's trying incredibly hard, but, quote, the flood is too big.
Wow. The flood is too big.
Yeah. People are going to be on the street regardless. These outdoor spaces, they don't solve homelessness.
Right.
They are an emergency triage response to a systemic failure. They manage the immediate physical danger, preventing heat deaths and providing security from street violence.
Just keeping people alive.
Exactly. As an immediate life-saving intervention, they are vastly superior to unmanaged illegal encampments.
I can definitely see that.
So updating the score dynamically, we boost Arizona's rating here. The state is demonstrating strong programmatic intervention by meeting people where they are, even if where they are is an outdoor tent.
Emergency triage is vital, obviously. But it brings us to our final and arguably most important metric. Category 6, pathways to permanent housing. All of the 500 a.m. police sweeps, all the innovative church parking lots, all the safe outdoor campgrounds, they mean absolutely nothing if they do not eventually lead to a permanent front door.
Right.
What does the pipeline to actual housing look like?
Well, the exit data reveals the ultimate bottleneck in the entire system.
Let's hear it.
Let's contrast the innovative programs we just discussed. The Phoenix Safe Lots pilot program. The small, highly targeted church parking lots.
Right, for women and children.
Right. They report that 50% of participating households successfully transition into permanent housing within 60 to 90 days.
That is incredible.
And furthermore, they boast a return to homelessness rate of only 1%.
That's a systemic triumph for a localized program.
It really is.
But those are microlots hosting maybe 15 cars at a time. what happens when you look at the macro scale, like that massive, safe outdoor space campground in Phoenix?
Yeah, the SOS scale tells a vastly different story.
Okay, hit me.
Between November 2023 and August 2025, that centralized facility served a total of 2,147 individuals. But over that nearly 2-year period, only 159 of those people exited directly into permanent housing.
159 out of over 2,000.
Yeah.
So thousands of people move through the gates, but barely a fraction of them ever receive the keys to an apartment.
Exactly.
I mean, you can build the safest, most organized waiting room in the world. You can staff it with security guards, stock it with hot meals, fill it with brilliant case managers.
Right.
But if the door leading out of that waiting room is permanently bricked over, people are just going to live in the waiting room indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
And this loops entirely back to the foundational math we started with in Category 1.
That is the ultimate bottleneck. The pathway to permanent housing is fundamentally blocked by the macroeconomic reality of the state.
Right.
When there are only 26 affordable units for every 100. Extremely low-income households, even the most dedicated case managers cannot manifest apartments that simply do not exist.
They just aren't there.
No. So, I am locking in the final calculation based on this data.
All right, let's summarize what we've uncovered for you today. Arizona demonstrates some distinct, undeniable strengths.
Definitely.
Municipalities are showing a genuine willingness to bypass traditional bureaucracy and try innovative, low-barrier models like the structured SOS campground in Phoenix and Star Village in Tucson.
Yep.
Targeted interventions, like the safe lots for families living in cars, are proving that solutions do exist.
Right.
But the systemic weaknesses are severe.
Extremely severe.
The state is operating with an extreme deficit of housing for low-income residents. Cities like Tucson are relying heavily on high arrest enforcement strategies that cycle people through jails rather than placing them in beds. And the pipeline out of the shelter system is choked to a complete standstill.
So let's assign the final letter grades across the 6 categories of our scorecard.
All right, let's hear them.
For housing affordability,
Yeah.
based on the extreme ELI deficit and population pressures, it is an F.
Oh.
For shelter access, balancing Phoenix's capital expansion against the severe regional wait times, a C. Criminalization and enforcement receives a D. That's heavily dragged down by high arrest ratios and 5.00 AM displacement sweeps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Vehicle dwelling friendliness earns a C, reflecting a volatile mix of punitive zoning ordinances and promising pilot programs.
Okay.
Outreach and social services earns a B, recognizing the bold implementation of harm reduction outdoor spaces.
A strong point for them.
Yeah. And finally, pathways to permanent housing receives a D, due to the incredibly low exit rates from large-scale facilities into actual apartments.
Taking all of those mechanics into account, it is time to reveal the final perfectly homeless state score for Arizona.
Synthesizing the systemic deficits with the localized innovations, Arizona's final perfectly homeless state score is a 62 out of 100, or D-.
A D-.
Yeah. The state is investing heavily in managing the immediate crisis of survival on the streets, but it is fundamentally failing to resolve the underlying lack of affordable housing that causes the crisis in the first place.
That concludes our real-time scorecard for Arizona. This is part of our ongoing Perfectly Homeless State Scorecard series. I highly encourage you to check out our deep dives into other states.
Yeah, we're going to continue mapping out this geographic lottery across the country to see how different legal frameworks handle the exact same human crisis.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. If a state becomes incredibly efficient at managing outdoor survival,
Right.
if they get really good at providing safe dirt, mobile showers, and power wash sidewalks, do they eventually lose the political urgency to build the permanent walls and roofs that actually end homelessness?
Perfectly homeless is more than a phrase. It's a perspective. If you'd like to support our channel and help us keep exploring these vital topics, click on over to the Perfectly Homeless Etsy store. Pick up a warm hoodie with our logo and support the channel. Perfectly Homeless is a brand built from real life and real lessons. Wear the message of freedom and support the Perfectly Homeless mission.